Kia ora, everybody. Welcome to this month's Techbytes. It's great to be here again. After we had last month, I had a couple of weeks leave in Europe and back in New Zealand now, and great to be back with great connectivity, actually. And talking about connectivity, this morning we're talking with Mike Smith, who is the founder and CEO of the Connectivity Group and the chair of the Wireless ISP Association, who we work closely with, in particular around our Rural Connectivity Symposium. You know, we've been talking over time in the last couple of weeks with members around AI and security, but there is this DNA in our association around connectivity, and one of our key elements is you can't use tech unless you're connected. So connectivity needs to be that core utility in our mind anyway. So good to talk to you with you this morning, Mike. We've known each other for a few years now, and many people who attend the Rural Symposium will know who you are and have seen you around. But do you want to introduce yourself a little this morning and about a little bit about your journey to this point?
Yeah, kia ora, Craig, and thank you for the opportunity. As you've noticed, I've been around the Rural Connectivity Symposium and chair of Whisper for some time now, which is an exciting and continually challenging job at times. I'm 47. I've been in telco and connectivity for nearly all of my life, working life, 27 years. Fortunate enough to have been supportive with my family, especially when I went out on my own and decided to start a business in this. For that, and actually still some of my family and friends are still involved with me at TCG. It's been a heck of a journey. Lots of interesting times and exciting times and all that.
Yeah. Well, let's. I mean, you've been in the industry, well, not as long as I have because I'm quite a bit older. But you have been in the industry. There's been a lot of changes. But let's go right back to the beginning. Mm-hmm. What was your first job in this journey, and what sort of encouraged you to get into that?
Oh, yeah. Well, I first started out by chance as a storeman at Ben Rumble Communications. If anyone remembers Ben Rumble, top deals, top service. And I started off in the warehouse picking orders and sending them out. And I decided pretty quickly I wanted to do something a bit more than that. And I got to know Ben and some of the guys there, and that was really encouraging. And Ben actually was one of the people who actually encouraged me to get into sales and taught me a whole lot in a very short amount of time that I knew him. And I stepped into sales and sort of didn't look back after that. I was excited, and this is kind of where the industry I wanted to be in. Very quickly, it became my passion and my hobby, to be fair.
What happened to Ben Rumble? I mean,
he passed away, unfortunately.
No. Yeah.
But he went through different iterations of his business. But he had a staff. We had like 17 stores around the country, I think. But he was a lovely guy, and again, an inspiration to a lot of people.
Well, that's back in the days where there was a number of companies running stores that were selling Spark or Vodafone, or might have even been Bell South originally. You won't remember that, but yeah.
So, I do.
Yeah.
I do. The StarTAC and the
yes.
And all those phones, the old 918s and the 232 Nokias. Yes, I do remember. It's the early days.
I was in a meeting last week with a young lady, and she had a Flip, a Samsung Flip, and she was like, I've got the Flip because I was not around when those original flip phones are out. And I'm thinking, oh my goodness, I'm old enough. I think I had the Razr. I had a Razr at one point. I could probably find it actually somewhere in the house.
Anyway, was great. Too.
They were great phones, and I still think the BlackBerry. Sorry, we're off on tangent here, but I still think my BlackBerry was actually one of the best devices I ever had, because it wasn't. It was great for email, but it didn't. There was no distractions on the phone.
They were great.
Yeah. So going back to them, I mean, what encouraged you to then take the plunge and start your own company? Let's start with that rather than what it's in. Let's just talk about starting your own company, because a number of our young people are talking about side hustles and getting involved in that. But let's talk about why you did that and what you learned through that.
Okay. I guess the reason I wanted to be in business, I'd always wanted to be, I had my own business. I think even when I was a boy, I'd be doing a bike run, and I'd be dreaming of what I was going to do with my businesses when I was older. I didn't quite start that way. Didn't go to university. Unfortunately, I didn't kind of apply myself in that way. So I just got stuck into the workforce. And I still had that dream, and it had always been part of me, and I wanted to do that. And I guess I got into this industry, so it was kind of relevant, and that kind of created an opportunity and I guess a thinking that I could actually do something there. And I guess where it sort of happened for me is I found something I was interested in. I got into, I was working in Ashburton for a telecom deal at the time. And I was traveling, I live in Christchurch, traveling to sort of Ashburton area, Timaru every week. In fact, most days I think I was in Ashburton. And I was in the rural areas. I was out in mid Canterbury. I was meeting farmers and got to see them in the store, but also got to go see them in their properties, and found that connectivity was such an issue. In those days, there was 3 cell sites in the district, and you can imagine what I think it was 3, maybe 4, but put it this way, it wasn't exactly great coverage, and there was always challenges. And this is the days of analog and early digital, and it created so many challenges. And one of the things that I'd sort of become quite good at doing is trying to problem solve, and I love doing that. And I guess that for me, there was a problem in connectivity that I wanted to solve. And I tried to do it within the realms of working in the telecom dealer relationship, but it was pretty limited because like you just didn't have the scope, and it was very much a narrow sort of path that you could follow. And I thought a little bit bigger than that. And to be fair, I just took that and trying to establish, I actually was one of the first people creating I think it was back in CDMA, EVDO. I was one of the first people doing a rural broadband solution using that to change people off satellite at the time. And so I started doing that, and I thought, okay, I need to do something else. So that sort of helped me, inspire me, and I stepped out and started my own business in 2009.
2009. Okay.
Yep.
And then, of course, that led on to other, growing the business. But let's talk about, things do change rapidly in this business, right? Let's be honest, government funding comes and goes.
Yes.
In this particular issue. Technology keeps changing and updating. I mean, how do you manage to keep ahead of all this, especially when you have a growing customer base and you're not one of the big players?
I think adapting. I would call myself a connectivity entrepreneur, and it's not an arrogant term. I think that's a term that I actually think there's a lot of us in New Zealand. There's a lot of the WISPs who do what I do, regional operators, the connectivity entrepreneurs. They find opportunities and work with them to develop them, and it's something that I love. I think adapting and being passionate. Look, amount of iterations of different programs that have come out and competition. You go, oh my gosh, is this going to be? No, it's not. It just means you have to look at what you're doing and adjust somewhat. And that's what we've been doing. And I think I guess from my business, we've diversified. We've created some different avenues of what we do, and that has its ups and downs, but it's been quite exciting too, because we get to challenge ourselves, and we get to look at what we're doing, and like the broadband game has changed so much in the time that I've been in it, and I've only really been in it for a short amount of time, probably 12, 13 years in the actual doing this, and it has changed so much, and the technology has changed so much. I think you've got to be looking at that. I think like when it comes down to it, you've actually got to know what you wanted to achieve. And we've always been in the rural space, and we've kind of focused on that. And it's making sure we're looking after those customers. And when you mess up, and we all mess up from time to time, you disappoint, you got to be transparent and own it. And that's one of the things I think we've done pretty well. And I like to think I have, and owned it when actually we haven't got things right. It's a challenging environment, like anything, and with technology changing, it does create a whole bunch of additional challenges. I think you also got to take some gambles, to be fair. And I guess when you start a business on your own, I think you do anyway. Especially if you've got no backing, you've got no financial backing, at least. It's a gamble. We've taken some pretty big ones, and recently, like in our business, we've gambled on some new tech that no one else is really using in New Zealand, that we think is going to be a game changer. I think it will be. I know it will be, and we've invested heavily into it, and we will see that happen at some point. And we're working around that, but you have to take gambles, and sometimes they pay off, sometimes they don't. That's business.
How big is your business these days? How many people have you got?
Around the 3,000 customers in our ISP. I think probably one thing I would say, we've got this massive network. I'm really proud. We started off with one site in Arari Gorge that happened by chance, that I was going out to see a farmer about mobile coverage of all things, and all of a sudden got into a conversation that created a series of events that created a tower on us, or a repeater on his hill. That spread, we've got more than 150 transmission sites now. Probably got one of the biggest coverage areas in the country over wireless network. And a lot of area that would love to have people on. So that number that I said at the start, like it's probably a lot lower than I'd like it to be. Of course it is. And we're working quite hard to do that. But we've been fortunate enough to be part of some government programs that have helped us cement that and grow it and develop it. And that means that we've got some pretty exciting technology and opportunities. But we cover pretty much everywhere between sort of Oamaru and Oxford and North, so quite a huge coverage area. So quite, and that just really creates a big opportunity for us to be able to provide great connectivity in Canterbury.
And I presume, you've built a business, you're employing people that wouldn't otherwise be employed, you're taking young people on.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you have been an advocate in that rural space. You're a strong voice. And can you share some of the other success stories you've had providing coverage to those struggling?
Yeah, I think just speaking to what we did in our business, which is why I think we are where we are now, is I mentioned we started with the site in Aurora Gorge Station. That was helping a farmer connect, and then that he put us onto a few other people, and that's often how business like ours start. We solved a problem, we helped get connectivity, and sort of spread from there. And then we did the same thing. One of the examples we've done is we've done a number of communities where there was absolutely no connectivity, like there was dial-up. And this is not that long ago, to be fair. And we thought, oh, we can solve that. So we built some infrastructure there. One of them's Hakaturi huts at the Ash into the Ashburton River, where we've been there for nearly 10 years, providing services. The other that is really I love a lot, is also one of the most challenging, is the upper Rangitata Valley, where we worked with the community who had nothing but either really slow satellite at the time and CMAR telephone. We put on a repeater, connected up the whole community, and then when that wasn't quite a fit for purpose anymore, the community helped us build a site about 1,200 meters on top of Mount Harper. And to this day, we fly up there. We have one of the local farmers who is our helicopter pilot, actually looks after us as well, who helps us service it. So kind of it's been a focus, helping those homes and businesses get connected, and taking that seriously as well, because it is a pretty important utility for them. And I guess that's probably for us. We have a number of those cases. I think one of the other thing that's a success story for connectivity that I'd actually like to talk about, that I've been fortunate enough to be part of, is a partner with the RCG, the Rural Connectivity Group, of late. And I'm not the only one of the wireless operators, but we've been particularly fortunate. I've had the opportunity to help connect even the Chatham Islands. We're a part of connecting the new cell sites we were on the Chatham Islands a few years ago. We've got a number of cell sites around the country that we provide transmission services to. And that's been made available because we kind of wanted to diversify a bit. We also had capability in our people and expertise, and we backed it. And the RCG has been able to partner with us, amongst others, to connect a lot of cell sites. That means a lot of people in some of these areas are being able to connect it, and it's through but small businesses like us actually delivering the services to get them connected. And I think it's a real success for rural connectivity in general, because it's not just big operators doing it, it's actually supported by the smaller operators who can help be part of that. So I think that's a great success story for rural connectivity.
I mean, let's be honest, the big operators often, they like to do their own thing because, they feel like they need to be in control. And, we've encouraged them over multiple years, long time, to engage with players like yourself. So it's great to see the RCG, which is the three mobile companies, coming together as one, working with people like yourself on providing services. I know there are other people around that do that as well.
Yeah, it's great.
Well, yeah, it is. And how do you see this changing? I mean, we have talked obviously offline over this year about how to deal with this new government, but so let's start with what new technology is coming for providing services outside urban New Zealand. You talked about one already, but yeah, let's go down that track.
Yeah, I think there's one pretty obvious one, which is Starlink, or LEO satellite to be real. That's the real term here. Starlink's been a great example. It's been a disruptive technology that is and provider that has sort of come into our market and around the world, and has actually changed the game in the sense of there is now no longer any place that really can't be connected. Generally, there's not many. You'd have a few, there may be the odd, but I doubt it. And they have that ability to connect with the great technology. Satellite is that last mile thing, and that's exciting. And I think it's another tool in the toolbox. And I think that's important because we have a lot of great tools. We have a lot of great connectivity. We have wireless services that we provide this fiber. Many of our members now provide fiber or wanting to get into that game. You also have you have mobile services, 5G. Add Starlink to that and Leo. To be fair, connectivity as far as overall coverage is pretty solved in the sense of broadband. You could argue mobile is not, and that might get better once we have the satellite services. But I think from a tech perspective, that's probably the big one. I think fiber rollout needs to increase, and that's something that's pretty obvious. But it's also being realistic with that and where you can go with the cost. As far as other tech, good grief, it's like a crystal ball. What else is coming? Like there is more mobile orientated. There's the next generation 6G. But I think we've actually probably seen the biggest change in rural connectivity and introducing another player, another tech, which is of course in the tech space anyway.
Yeah. Those satellites do certainly change things, and we heard from Project Kuiper. I mean, you'd be the same as me. We'd like to see some more competition in that space. So we'd like to see more providers come in rather than just relying on one gentleman who can be a little bit strange in his decision making on occasions. Okay, so let's go down that track about government, because you are the chair of Whisper. So I don't care what hat you wear at this point, whether it's Mike, CEO of Connectivity Group, or chair of Whisper. But what needs to be done by the government to encourage the growth of quality? So we're talking about capability of services in rural New Zealand.
Yeah, I think that's the key thing. I think, as I said, we've solved the overall coverage thing, and now it's capacity. And there's been some great programs in the past, the RCU program, the RBI2, they've been great. The next real focus has to be, and we know the government currently has no money. We keep being told that. The minister has told us that. So understanding that, we need we get wins. Well, one of the areas is regulatory and making sure that it's fit for purpose, making sure that it's not going to hinder development, it's not going to hinder investment. That's pretty important. And I think that's pretty key. One of the things, though, I think is probably really important, particularly to regional players and not the smaller players, and I think has a massive part to play in rural connectivity, is access to capital. And I think that's one of the biggest challenges business in general has, especially small business, but access to capital, because that is what enables innovation. It's what enables operators to be able to do new things, expand. There is a number of our members and operators out there building fiber networks that no one knows about, but they're out there and they're being built to provide connectivity to homes. There is others doing great wireless services, but the problem is they are massively capital intensive. And I think the minister sort of talked about, and he was at iSpan's conference I attended a couple of weeks ago, and at that conference he talked about how we've got this world-class connectivity infrastructure. We've done really well in that infrastructure. The problem we've got is we don't want to let that sort of die off. We don't want to go, hey, we've done this, we've met the mark, because actually that's the mark right now. We actually need to continue there. But I don't necessarily think that has to be, hey, government, shell out money. That's actually not what it needs to do. I think what it needs to be a bit smarter about how there is access to capital to invest. There is a lot of people who can do a wonderful job of delivering, and that needs capital. And so whether that be loan schemes, whether that be government support or private funding, those sort of things need to be considered, because I guess that's how we're going to see more fiber. It's how we're going to see better wireless services. The tech I talked about earlier on, that is massively capital intensive. I would love to roll a massive network out of that. I don't have the cash flow to do it. I need capital. That's a reality. But what I can do with that is amazing. So I think that's the way that we can do it. I don't think it's more government money. It is simply, how does the government support our industry to be able to grow and continue to grow? Because with great connectivity, you can do amazing things. And I think that's pretty key. So that would be probably where I see it, because if we want to stay at the top, we have to keep investing. If it's seen that it's the private sector, then help the private sector actually achieve that, either through loans or something else. Yeah, that's probably my key thing.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And particularly, I mean, the access to capital and we can't afford to stand still. I mean, as I said earlier, I had some time in a particular part of Europe, and I would say that the speed of the connectivity outside the city wasn't too great, and which means that you feel like you come back to New Zealand and yes, we're doing well, but I don't think we can afford to measure ourselves against others. We need to be the best that we possibly can be because of where we are and the type of country we are. We need to, remove any barriers to improving productivity.
Can I just say to that as well? I think it's one of the things I do hear quite a bit is almost in the sense that we've met this, we've ticked the box, or we're going to let the billionaires provide the silver bullet service, and that's not actually that's not a model we can live with, because how long until that disappears? So I think we've got to be, and I like what you're saying, we've actually got to be the ones doing this, and it's not measuring about what people are doing. It's actually making sure we got the best. I like that.
Yeah, me too. All right, well, let's just come back to you and your company. So you're leading a company, what, and as we said, we've got people looking at these sorts of things. What are some of the key learnings you've had over time that you wish you'd known earlier and you'd want to share?
I thought thinking about that, I think partnering well. I've learned the hard way of partnering with people or at companies that didn't work, and I didn't go in necessarily with my eyes open. I was naive when I started my business, and had big dreams, but didn't necessarily know had the business acumen to follow it. I think learning that is a big thing. Be careful, but also do due diligence is pretty key. The other thing is, as a leader, knowing you can't do it all yourself. It's a constant battle for me. And thinking you can. The reality is you can't. I've got a relatively large team, I guess, for my business. We've got 21 plus staff now. And I've realized, and sometimes I have to be reminded, to be fair, by my management team, but I've got amazing talented people on my team. Many are much smarter, and I think actually that's the thing. Always employ smarter people than you, because that's how you're going to achieve what you want to achieve. And remember that you actually can't do it all. Generally, I want to be. I guess one of the things I've also learned is that my employees should be able to challenge me. It's okay to challenge me. I'm not the be all and end all. Yes, I might have the final vote, but I'd much rather be told, "Hey, there's another way," than not. Because I end up going down the wrong track. And I think that's important. And the other thing is, every day's a school day. Every day's a learning day. That you come to work, you do what you do. You're actually always learning. And your staff, your team are often part of that learning. So I think a lot of I think is probably about actually your people. They're actually the biggest asset in your business always. So yeah, that's probably the things I'd say.
Yeah. So if you're not doing your dream job already, what would it be?
Kind of am. I'm a dreamer and a schemer. I'm a big picture guy. What I love more than anything is having a big idea. And my team, they'll tell you they just don't stop coming. I like brainstorming, playing it out, and then sharing it with people and seeing it come to fruition. Now, I don't get to do that all the time. I love to have the space for that. That's the one thing I really want. If I had space to do it all the time, that would be my dream job. I'm pretty close. But yeah, that's kind of me. I do love what I do. I would not change, no matter all the stuff that's happened, and the good and the bad. I wouldn't change it.
Yeah. Thanks, Mike. Hey, look, it's been so good to talk to you. We don't get a chance to talk about these sorts of things because often we're so busy working out, discussing with the government or working out, plans for us for next year's symposium. Is there any last comments or thoughts you'd like to share?
Not really, Craig. Just thanks for the opportunity. It's always great to be able to share from experience, and I think that's really beneficial to others, especially those starting out. I love what I do, as I say. And I'm passionate about what I do for my business, but also for WSP NZ, representing our members. I get that opportunity to front up to the minister and have questions, and actually that's something I love. But I could talk about this all day long. This is my passion. I won't say I'm going to be not be a bit rude or crass, but to be fair, it used to be people used to say, "Is that your radio porn?" Because I used to look at this. This is what I do, and I love this, and I love what I do. So
yeah. That's great to hear. Hey, look, I should have said this at the beginning, Mike is based in Christchurch. So I'm sure if you want to find Mike and have a chat to him, he wouldn't mind he's happy to have a cup of coffee with you at some stage. Just Google the Connectivity Group, or is it? Have you still got the Ultimate Broadband UBB brand going?
Yeah, that's a Solar ISP brand, the Connectivity Group, and Ultimate Broadband, both on LinkedIn.
Right, cool. Hey, look, so it's been great talking to you. Thanks, and thank you to those that have listened to us again this month. You will find us on every one of your podcast channels, whether it's Rover or Apple Podcasts, across the board, Spotify, and of course you can watch this on YouTube again and find all of our other ones that we've got going right back to 2020 when we first started with Jason Paris. When we first went into COVID and we had to do these sorts of things. But it's been great to keep these going. And so thank you everyone again, and we look forward to next month. And thank you again, Mike.